John Frost looked on the gathered crowd, now 3,000 strong. With heavy heart, his voice rang loud as he sang this loveless song. God is a guide from field, from wave, from plough, from anvil, and from loom. We come our country's rights to save and speak a tyrant faction's doom. We raise the watchword liberty. We will be free. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament comes crashing down with Robert's Rules of Order. And bobbies took an oath to be our nation's warders, swearing that they would enforce Sir Robert's Rules of Order. Till Newport rose a million friends who rallied each supporter to join this flood of working men against Robert's Rules of Order. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament comes crashing down with Robert's Rules of Order. Like this, on the steps of Parliament, John Frost stood proud and tall. A hush fell on this great event as he told them one and all, depose the gentry and the crown, depose the House of Lords, or join the Queen in exile by Robert's Rules of Order. So Chartists, Luddites, Communists, recall each faithful martyr who died so you could have your new world Robert's Rules of Order. Say it loud, vote your favor, shout it high. All in favor, you say aye. Favor, aye, favor. Aye. A mandate of the people's cry. Favor, aye, favor. Aye. Let's hear the opposition side. Like a stubborn donkey's bray. All opposed, you say nay. Opposed, opposed. The motion carries anyway. Currents change and bring to us our tear-corrupted warder. In chains subdued and ill-abused, he's left with no supporters. Mobility's will can then proceed by our own rules of order, and we'll all cheer for country's sake when Robert's drawn and quartered. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament shall be reborn with Robert's Rules of Order.
Coming up now. Oh, yes, we are. Okay. This is not streaming on Twitter, so it means we're going to have very little viewership this time, but they could always come and watch it on YouTube. I did something earlier today where I unauthorized. I got this message on Twitter that said I had too many apps that were authorized to access it, so I cleared the list out and apparently messed this up. So, I've got to figure that out.
How could you wind up with too many devices?
I don't know. So when this show is over, I'm gonna do like a little test one just myself, to reconnect the Twitter API because I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened at all. But that doesn't matter. People could watch afterwards. We do this for ourselves. We have the 7 questions. As you know, my dinner is not sitting well with me, so this is not going to be one of the more talkative episodes. So we're going to get right to it. But like I told you earlier, instead of going in order, because this is your last week, you're taking the test next week, right?
Planning on Friday.
Did they tell you how long it would take to get your results?
No, but they say that the test itself has got 2 3-hour sections. The first one is a bunch of 100 multiple choices. You have 3 hours to do it. And if you don't get 80%, then don't bother with the second part. And you're allowed a 1-hour break in between the two. And the second part is more situational, I guess, like essay questions or similar.
I'm trying to remember when I did it with an actual proctor. I do think it gave you the score right afterwards, but you still had to wait for the official email from...
Yeah, they said it still does that.
Yeah,
So
because the official email I know from the National Association of Parliamentarians, Mark Goddard, again, rest in peace, he had to sign something saying that he observed me the whole time.
yeah,
He was in
I haven't
the
seen anything on
vicinity.
that yet. So
Yeah, well, you're on camera. Yours is a little bit different. Mine was with a live proctor. So it was a
Sure.
little bit different. So, because it's your last time, instead of doing like 7 questions in order where we kind of knew the answers from the ones before it, I picked 7 questions at random out of the book. So it's gonna
Okay.
jump around. It's gonna hoppity, get off of my property. Okay. All
Boing,
right.
boing, boing, boing.
Oh my God. Did I put these in the wrong place? No, I didn't. Never mind. I thought I was really just a dumb bunny. I did it right, I think. So the first question should come up when I switch this screen.
There we go.
Yay! It did. Okay. I'm going to read it aloud. The special order
Mhm.
for a meeting.
Well, you put
A.
this in here because we were talking earlier.
I actually didn't. It was random. I picked pages at random. When I saw this come up, I laughed. I said, God has a sense of humor. I said the special order for a meeting. A takes precedence over special orders for particular hours that may come in conflict. B is taken up before the regular order of business. C is, yeah, my spelling, is taken up after the regular order of business is completed. And D requires a majority of the entire membership to order it.
Well, we know it ain't D, and because it doesn't take a majority of the membership because it's on the agenda. It is not taken up in the South or anywhere else after the regular order of business is completed because it's part of the agenda and it usually comes before in the regular order of business according to the agenda. So that's not it. And it precedes general orders anyway. Um, Regular order of business is taken up, not necessarily true because it depends on the ordering of the agenda, but special orders tend to come first and takes precedence over said special orders, particular hours that may come into conflict is what's left. And I believe because the special orders for the meeting, it's where the call of the meeting that's the right answer.
Yeah, it's because
So
it's the special order for the meeting. If we
yeah,
wanted to, excuse me, look at what that was, and whoop, sorry, didn't mean to hit my head and give you all a audio bump.
boink.
But if we look at page 371 and the 11th,
Oh, making me
uh,
reach for it.
yep, it's lines 9 through
371,
13.
huh?
Yep.
That's pretty. I got pretty close. I opened at the 378.
It says,
Special
although
meeting.
Yeah, it says, although the special order for a meeting takes precedence over all other forms of special orders, even if they were made before it was, the times of any such orders for particular hours that may come in conflict should be adjusted as indicated on the prior page, line 16 through 21. So let's say,
Says, yeah.
yeah, suspend the rules and take them up in succession only to postpone it and make it a special order for the desired new time. Okay,
Right.
this is the kind of stuff. This is where my heresy is going to come in. I can see if you're at a meeting of parliamentarians who have sticks up their
Yeah.
butts or anything like that. To me, if you've called, what I'm saying is completely unorthodox. So nobody here take this as like a parliamentary opinion. It is not. This is a me as an ornery member opinion. Um, do we really have to go through all that? We called a meeting for a special order. Can't we all just agree we're going to do this first? And then we're going to do the other ones in the order that they were set. I hate special
Okay.
orders and general orders and all of that. I think it makes things way, way more complicated. And I hope it gets simplified in
Yeah.
future editions of Roberts. Because to go through all
Yeah.
that, oh, it's now time for, special order, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're
Yeah, it
going
starts to
to,
sound like a bad game show.
if no, my attitude always is, if nobody's rights
Yeah,
are being violated, I don't care
who
about
cares? Yeah,
shortcuts. We don't serve the rules serve us. But your test is on the technicalities, and you did get in fact, the right answer. But the key word there was
yeah,
the special order. Even
right.
though in the book they didn't italicize it, I should have italicized it probably on this slide just
Well,
to
I
make
read
it
that as
clear.
being part of the. I read that. I'm trying to find something here as part of the call of the meeting in the first place. So to
Yeah.
me, that gets right of way over everything, over all the details that come involved with it. So,
All righty,
oh,
we're
there it
gonna
is.
move on to number 2, and I don't think we have any more on special orders or anything. But I didn't even hardly read these, to be honest with you. My typing on them is atrocious, probably. Because did you go to that meeting today?
I did not. We ran up to get lunch because otherwise I was going to have a case of life-aside.
It was interesting. There were parts of it that I found really interesting, but I was typing these questions at the same time, so there could be some very interesting misspellings. Why did I do
Taken.
that? No, I wanted to do this. Okay. All right. Second question: reports of officers and committees, which are for information only, and do what? And do not required. Hold on, let me look at what I was supposed to type. I told you my typing was going to be interesting
I'm
on
betting
this
it's
one.
R. I'm betting it's R not required by the convention.
And do not require action by the convention.
Ah,
So they're for information only and do not require action by the convention. A, are always read, even when printed and distributed. B, may be printed and distributed in advance, and it may not be necessary to read the report. C, I don't know why there's these I's before everything. C,
the eyes have it.
are never read when printed and distributed. D, are not questioned by the assembly.
Well, okay. The answer on this one is going to be B, but I'll tell you why. Um, if there's no action required, and then it can be decided to not be read in the interest of expediency, especially if there's nothing real earth shattering or super important about it. However, that being said, when it comes up for that point in the agenda, there still can be questions of it by the assembly, and requiring it to be never read if it's printed distributed is the exact opposite of C, and so I know both of those are wrong. B is the best answer because of its flexibility and it still allows things to be addressed if needed.
Believe it or not, they are saying the answer is C.
Oh, horseshit.
But we're going to look it up. 627, lines 23 through 29. Now, I can tell you at our conventions, our LP national conventions, the reports aren't read in full when they're printed and distributed in the booklet ahead of time. They usually do highlights. I'm thinking of Todd
Some of them
Hagopian's
may take
last report.
hours.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Todd Hagopian's last report. He highlighted certain things, but he did not
Oh,
read the report in full.
treasurer support, audit committee report, exactly. I mean, those are the two biggest ones right there.
Okay, so we're going 23 through 29. Often reports of officers that are for information only and do not require action by the convention are printed and distributed in advance. In such a case,
Right.
it may not be necessary to have the report read. The chair can simply pause for any questions by delegates to the reporting officer, and the reporting officer can make additional comments on his report at that time. The reports of the board, if any, usually should follow the reports of officers.
That's
So,
B. That's B.
yes, I agree with you. I think they printed their answer key wrong. And in fact, when I saw that they said it was C, I went to the errata page. I can't see it here.
Yeah.
There's an errata page to see if that was one of the ones there was an errata on, and it isn't. Let me make sure. No, it isn't. So I
It's the
agree with
return of
you.
April.
I agree with you that it's B.
Yeah, because the very first sentence, often
Yep.
they're printed and distributed in
Yes.
advance. Doesn't mean
Yes.
they're never or always.
Right.
Yeah,
They often it is equivalent to may, and
right.
it didn't say you can't read the report. It said
Yeah.
I don't
It
that
may not be
you
necessary to have the
it
report
may
read.
not be necessary, right? So the correct
Yeah,
answer is B, even though the answer key
yeah.
says C. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I agree with you on that one, and they should put that in the errata.
I'll scream bloody murder on that one if it pops up.
Well, it's a different test now, so it probably won't. But
Yeah.
you're going to be in a pickle if it comes up because in the book they had the wrong answer.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what to do. I'd tell you pick the right one because I'm sure by now they've fixed it. Because remember, this
I'll
study
flag it.
guide I have is really old.
I'll flag it and
Okay.
I'll try to put a note in there, something, notes and saying, guys, this is wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Hahnemann. I'm sure he'll love it. Um, Number 3. Each new session may elect a chairman pro tem without previous notice for A, the current session, B, the next session, C, no more than 2 sessions, D, the remainder of the term of the current officers.
Each new session may elect a chairman pro tem without previous notice. Okay. The previous notice part is a factor, but I'm not sure exactly what yet. So let's look at the rest of this first. If it were for the remainder of the terms of the current officers, and you have multiple sessions remaining, then it makes the question itself doesn't make any sense because that would be in place for the rest of the term, and and each new session following couldn't do it. So it's not D. That's just logic. Um, Same argument for C, no more than 2 sessions, because again, because it's each new session, so the next one could do the same thing.
I think I lost the answer key
It,
for these, so we're going to have to just look up the answers on these to see if we're right
well, hang on,
because
I haven't given an answer yet, but yeah,
no, I'm just
um,
noticing because I was looking for the answer and I can't
yeah,
find the answer key for it.
yeah. I don't think it's previous notice for the next session. I'm going to stick with A because to me that's the only one that makes any sense. But I'll be confessed that I'm not sure that how notice factors into this.
Yeah, I
So I'm sticking with
never,
A.
you know, whenever I think of pro tem anything, I never think of previous notice
Yeah, I don't either.
be, being required at all. So I have to tell you, I think the answer is A or D because
I'm
D is
going with A.
so. Oh, I'd go with A too. But D is so unusual because the previous notice thing is throwing me for a loop. D would be
Yeah.
so unusual that I could see previous notice being slipped in there. But I would go with A as well. But because I don't
Well,
have the answer key,
D doesn't make any sense because if each new session within the term can elect a chairman pro tem, then each new session can replace the previous one with somebody else. So the remainder of the term doesn't make any sense unless
yeah,
I'm reading
that's
it wrong.
true.
But
But they could have
what's
worded it
what's
weird too.
yeah, what's the citation on this one?
It is 453, 3 through 7. So it
Okay.
says if neither the president nor any vice president is present, the secretary, or in the secretary's absence, some other member should call the meeting to order, and the assembly should elect a chairman pro tem to preside during that session. And that's where it would end, but I'm going to continue. Such office is terminated by the entrance of the president or a vice president or by the adoption of a motion to declare the chair vacant and proceed to elect a new chairman. If the assembly is to elect a chairman pro tem to hold office beyond the current session, In the event that the president and vice presidents are unable to perform their duties for that length of time, notice must be given at the preceding meeting or in the call of the meeting. A and D are both right. Well, D might not be for the rest of current officers, but it's for multiple sessions. So D's not exactly right, but that is where previous notice comes in. I knew that previous notice had to mean something. So yes, the correct answer is A, but something you can learn from this is that a session can elect a chairman pro tem, like if they know the president, or as we would say, chair, and any vice chairs, because multiple organizations have a first vice chair, second vice chair. Like if they know for the next 3 sessions they're going to be unavailable for whatever reason, you can elect a chairman pro tem for those next 3 sessions as long as you have previous notice. That's something I didn't
and that's
know.
the key point. That's the key point is the notice requires you don't require any notice from where this is reading for anything beyond the current session.
Yes, I didn't know that. That's something I
I
learned
wasn't
once.
sure how it factored in either, but just the way it was worded logically, it made the most sense.
Yeah, but the way they word these things is always bizarre.
Well,
Okay,
that's true.
next one. One question number 4. In most ordinary societies having executive boards. Okay, this is something we are not really familiar with in the LP. The executive committee of the National Party is not a typical executive board.
Right.
Just saying, this is I know where
It's a
this is
subgroup.
going, but this is for different types of societies than we are used to. And most ordinary
Right.
societies having executive boards, A, it is customary for the board to elect its own officers. B, it is customary for the president and the secretary of the society to serve in the same capacity within the board. C, it is customary for the president of the society to serve as chairman of the board and for the secretary to be appointed by the president. I got to move us down. And D, the bylaws must make provision for filling the position of president and secretary of the board.
Okay. Let's
This is a
walk through
weird
these
one.
again. Well, okay. B and C contradict each other. Because if it's customary for the president secretary of the society to serve in the same capacity, then the secretary would not be appointed by the president. They would not they appoint somebody else. So, and I don't buy C anyway because that doesn't make a lot of sense. Because usually the secretary is elected to the position the same way the rest of them were. The bylaws must make provisions for the filling of the position of president and secretary of the board. Not necessarily, because they depends on how if the bylaws even allow for an executive board. That may be decided at a policy manual or a lower level set of rules for that. Should it be in the bylaws? I can make an argument, yeah, because it's party structure. Excuse me, society structure, party structure. Customary for the board to elect its own officers is not contradictory to B, because those can both indicate the same thing. I want to go with A, but I'm not sold on it.
And A, okay. It
Customary for the
actually,
board to elect its own officers.
okay, let me look at these again because I don't have the answer sheet. It is actually B.
Okay.
And this is just something you and I don't have a lot of familiarity with. So I would
Yeah.
suggest for you that you really review this section before your
Yeah.
test. It's
It's a
under it's chapter 16, boards and committees, and it's in the very beginning. So I'm going to read what it says. In
what
ordinary
page on?
society, page number 484. It says,
Okay.
in ordinary societies having executive boards, on the other hand, the president and secretary of the society serve in the same capacities within the board, unless the bylaws provide otherwise. So that's why
Oh,
D
there it is.
isn't right, because there's a default
Yeah.
in Roberts. So that's why, yeah, I think the bylaws
Okay.
should probably make it explicit. And this is, I don't know
Right.
if you still disagree. I think we still disagree on this, but this is why our, oh God, I don't want to start a fight with you. This is why our bylaws don't talk about secession of the vice chair to the chair, because it's automatic in Roberts. I know we don't agree on this. But anyway, that's why D is not the right answer, because Roberts gives an automatic that unless the bylaws say otherwise, the
Yeah.
secretary and the president of the society also serve as the secretary and president of the executive board.
Yeah. Which I said was right, but then I looked at it further, and I'll talk myself out of it.
Yeah. And here's Richard saying it's easy. Well, meanwhile, you and I struggled with it, but he's used to different kinds of our
Yeah.
experiences in the
Broader
LP,
perspective. Yeah.
you know?
Broader perspective.
And I'd like to get experience outside of the LPA because just because I think because
Yeah.
is enough of an answer when it comes to the LP, but also to learn things like this. Number 5, a question arising, not arising, out of a committee report on a matter referred to it is A, interesting, an original main motion. B is an incidental main motion. C is a motion that brings a question again before the assembly. Or D, a privileged motion.
Well, it ain't a privileged motion. We can eliminate that one immediately. um, oh, this is an interesting one, because
Yeah.
what if the question arising out of the committee was a question referred to them in the first place?
Well, it says it was. It says a question
Yeah.
arising out of a committee report on a matter referred to it is.
Yeah. So I don't think it's an incidental main motion. The one that's I'm staring at here, which has got me thinking hard about it, is C, which is the motion that brings a question again before the assembly. Because technically that is true, because it was before the assembly and then it was sent to the committee and now they're bringing it back. But is it an original main motion is the other question. And this is an area where I forget what they said about commits. Um, I don't think an incidental main motion can be committed. You can go with C, but it could be A.
Okay, I'm going to tell you it's saying it's B. And
Okay.
this and we're going to have to walk through this.
Yes, we
Um
are. Where are we going?
it's not really clear, but if you go to 509, it says
Okay.
lines 20 through 27, and
Yeah.
it's talking about the applicability of rules to questions arising out of reports. But if you
Okay.
go to, if it was referred as a subject on which no question was pending, and it didn't say it was a pending question, it just said it was a matter on which no question was pending, the main question introduced following the report is an incidental main motion. but it also refers back to page 101 to 102, which we might want to go to. So I think this is
Oh, I
worded
see
in
what
a
they're
tricky
saying here
way.
because, oh, yeah, they are because a matter is not the same as a question,
Right.
which is kind of tricky because it's supposed to be questions referred to a committee, not matters.
So and I think on 101 it answers our question. So there's a matter, whatever the matter may be. It says one of the characteristics of an incidental main motion is that it does not mark the beginning of a particular involvement of the assembly in a matter. So it doesn't. This would be an incidental one
Ah,
because they already started dealing with it by referring it to a committee. That's the
yeah, I
way
see that.
I'm understanding it. And
I
even
see that.
though you and I say I will, I'm not going to say you ever were as bad as I've been, though you could say that if you want to. I don't like saying bad things about other people. Me with the classifications of motions, I've always hated that, but I've gotten way better at it, and I understand that. I understand that notion.
Yeah, I
So
see their argument here,
yeah,
but I would argue that yeah, I've been a little lousy on those in the past too.
I think we both are getting better on those. As
Yeah,
time goes by, and experience certainly helps. And I think doing these shows does, because this is like one of those weird things that if you don't talk about it a lot, you kind of lose it. It's like learning another language. If you don't speak it often enough, you lose it. I mean, how many people
and
remember their high
there's
school
subtleties in
French?
here too.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's subtleties in here too. Like in this case, a matter versus a question referred to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to number 6.
Okay.
And this actually did. I'm going to move both of us up a little bit because we're kind of cut off at the bottom here. This deals a little bit with the presentation today. Because remember, the topic of the presentation today are things that a society can't do. So,
Yeah. Remember, I wasn't
uh,
there.
yeah,
So,
I know, but it's interesting that this question relates to that. Um,
okay.
so it says, the only limitations on rules that an organized society can adopt might arise from A. Rules in the parliamentary authority, B. Rules of a subordinate body, C. National, state, or local law, D. Existing rules. I picked hard questions.
Okay, let's walk through this one too. Rules in the parliamentary authority and organized society can suspend. So it's not A. And they can adopt them all they want, but they can also suspend them. Rules of subordinate body doesn't make any sense because they're a subordinate body, not a superior body. I mean, they could adopt them, but what's the point? Existing rules, you don't adopt things that already exist. That doesn't make any sense. I think because we're talking about limitations which would be imposed from a higher body, so to speak. And they don't mention in here anything regarding bylaws or corporate charter, which would be higher than the rules. But above those also is national, state, or local law. So I'm sticking with C.
It is C. And I almost
Yeah.
wish, considering the current situation, I'm going to read the whole thing. The only limitation, I'm on page 10, starting with line 25. The only
Well, let's way back in the beginning.
limitations the only limitations upon the rules that a body can adopt might arise from the rules of a parent body, kind of like the national party. Sorry. Um, as those of a national society restricting its state or local branches. Hello, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
Or from national, state, or local law affecting the particular type of organization. So,
There
yes,
it is.
you are correct. I wish it
Yeah.
added.
Hierarchy matters.
Look to the
Hierarchy matters.
lobster, as Jordan Peterson would say. All right, last
A
question.
lobster. Okay.
You, you, you never watched his lobster speech?
No.
He he's made fun of this to this day because he talks about how hierarchies are inevitable, and just look at nature. In particular, look at the lobster. So now I'm always like, look to the lobster. And the person who was interviewing him, I think it was that British lady that there's that famous quote where she keeps misstating him, and she keeps saying, so what you're saying is, and it's like a complete misstatement, but I think she said to him, are you saying we should be looking to the lobsters? Anyway, now you know why I have
Only
that
with a good,
lobster
only
hat.
with a good butter sauce.
Yeah, I have that lobster hat down here. I don't know where it's at. That's sometimes why I wore that. Okay, number 7. This is the last question. In dealing with disorder in a meeting, the chair should A. Drown out the members with his voice. B. Use the gavel to restore order. C. Always maintain a firm, calm, and deliberate tone. D. Argue with the members.
Well, we know that A and D aren't right, even though it happens a lot in certain areas that we won't talk about. Um,
And
but
it's fun. It's a lot of fun when you
yes,
do A and D, but they're not right.
C is always the case, even when there's not disorder going on. So the answer is going to be B, but they neglect to say how you're using the gavel. Are you batting on the batter, or are you battering on the disorderly members?
Okay, we're gonna go to 6:45. I could tell you without looking that it's not
Yeah,
B, and I'll tell you
it's
why
not
it's
B
not. It's not B. There's a very interesting article
because
in,
TSA stole your gavel.
well, yeah, and I never did get that back. But the other one you sent me
Assholes.
is gorgeous, and I do have that. There's an interesting article. I think it's 2 national parliamentarian issues ago that says,
Uh-huh.
despite the fact that the gavel is like almost ubiquitous, like symbology for being a parliamentarian, that it's only mentioned like 3 or 4 times in Roberts. And what B would be is almost gaveling through. And it says the gavel's never supposed to be used to do that. That it's only to be used for 1 or 2 quick wraps, and sometimes not even the mallet part, but the handle part. It's a really interesting article that maybe we'll go over. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'm guessing. So we're going to 6:45, lines 11 through 14, but I think I'm right. Yes,
I think
and
there's a big difference between this and this.
well, to use the gavel to restore order, to hit it once, it's just never mentioned in that context. Now,
No, it depends
is
on how you use it. Are you using it on the tapper, or are you using it on the noggins of the disrupting people?
either or. Is it called a tapper? I thought it was called a clapper.
Then whatever.
No,
The
I'm really
base.
curious now because I
I
always
don't
thought it
know.
was called a clapper. Richard, you're in text.
Clap on, clap off.
Is the little round thing, is that called a clapper or a tapper? And the only reason I looked it up at one time was because of Alex Merced. Remember how frustrated he got in Orlando? And
Yes.
he's like, oh my, you guys are frustrated. You're making me want to throw this. And when he picked up the little round thing, it was the
Yeah.
most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life, and his hair was so crazy. Okay, so it's 6:45, 11 through 14, and these headphones are really interfering with my glasses. In dealing with any case of disorder in a meeting, the presiding officer should always maintain a calm, deliberate tone, although he may become increasingly firm. Oh, if the situation demands it, under no circumstance should the chair attempt to drown out a disorderly member either by his own voice or the gavel, or permit himself to be drawn into a duel. So it is in fact C. because C is always true. Though it does say he can become more firm as the disorderliness continues, as we've seen. I keep hitting my head on that damn microphone.
See, to me, that's a way to lose the room in a large and quick hurry.
I think it depends on the officer. Nick was always very able, by being firm, to do that. You know,
Yeah, but he's also engaged in A in the past also, though. He happened to have the benefit of a microphone too, which makes a difference.
I don't remember Nick ever drowning out anyone with his voice.
Oh, I do. New
It could be
Orleans.
before in New Orleans. I do not remember that ever.
At the last with the whole JC election controversy with the oh look, we're adjourned.
Yeah, but I don't think he drowned out members.
Oh, he
I
did. He did.
Well, it'd be interesting to watch because that's just not my recollection of it. I wonder what Richard Brown might remember on that. I do remember though. He's like, "Oh crap, we've adjourned, right?"
Well, that was
All
the thing,
right.
is that he drowned out the voices racing to points of order at the time when he shouldn't have, and that's where, yeah,
Yeah, that caused a lot of problems. It makes a really big difference when we're not on Twitter because very few people watch on YouTube. So I'm going to need to
yeah,
figure that out. But you're going to
right.
have to report back on your test next weekend. And we talked about a subject we're going to be covering next weekend is about potential miss Richard Brown says it's called the block or sounding block. We're going to need to look that up so we know the
I can
correct
believe that.
terminologies.
I can believe that.
So
Yeah.
we were going to be talking about potential misuses. That was in the
Mhm.
latest or the next to latest national parliamentarian. I didn't agree with everything they said, so we were going to talk and see what you and I both thought about it. We're not going to talk about it ahead of time. You and I will come at it fresh. I'll send you the article. I'll
Yeah.
scan it and send it to you. Um,
Hmm.
but remember, because I don't want you to get in trouble, uh, after you take your test, I do want to hear how you think you did, but
Sure.
don't say what any of the questions were. They're going to tell you that at the beginning of the test. Like I can
It's the
talk
thing I
more about
remember.
yeah, I can talk a little bit more about what was on my test because they don't use it anymore. But current
Yeah.
tests, they really will come down upon you if you say what certain questions are. So
Mhm.
just be sufficiently vague so you don't get in any kind of trouble.
Yeah. And maybe one of these days they will get into the 21st century about their tests too, because part of their problem, yeah, I'm a critic of this because I've been through this too many times with other certifications, is they base it still on a model of memorize everything you can going into the exam when we live in a world where it's not what you know, but how to find the information is what
Yes.
matters.
Like the joke I made to my fourth grade teacher. Of course, it was a joke. No, actually, it wasn't fourth grade. I was able to drive then. So it must have been high school. I said, why do I need to remember my name? It's on my driver's license.
Uh,
I know where to
it's like
find it.
yeah, and that's the world we live in now. It's not necessarily what you know; it's how can you find the information so you actually know what you're talking about.
You
And
know,
that's just the way it works anymore.
one day I'm going to plug this back in. It's an old Audio Technica mic. This was my
Yeah,
podcasting mic, which I used to do my mic drops and stuff. So it's been through a lot of abuse, but it is an XLR. And in the 2000s, 2010s, I was using this. I wonder what it sounds like. It probably sounds like absolute ass, but that'd be funny to
who knows?
plug that in and just see. All right, that's going to be it for this evening. I'm going to give Richard a call about something, but then I'm going to troubleshoot why we're not on Twitter. So I apologize. For this, I'll stick a link to the show so that people can watch it if they wish. Oh, and
We got to
also
figure it out.
before we go, if you'll allow me, I do encourage people go over and subscribe to the channel's just called Pink Parliamentarian. It is also parliamentary stuff, quite obviously, but is simple. Mike and I really get into the weeds in the philosophy here. Pink Parliamentarian is more to promote my business, which is pinkparliamentarian.com, but I do 10 minutes and under. So I just did an episode on this, on what's the purpose of seconding emotion. So really, really basic stuff. But as I said to Mike, I think there's going to be two things he's going to learn from that show, so that even advanced persons, I think, will get something out of it. And if I get something wrong, I want to know. I want to know. So this is for beginners, and it's not as randy and dirty and nasty as this show can be. It's 10 minutes under, quick in, quick out. So please go subscribe. I would appreciate it. Anything you want to add, Mike?
No, just, I guess we'll see what happens on Friday, and here's hope for the best.
You're going to kill it. You're going to kill it. All right,
I hope
everyone,
so.
have a good night.
For all the time
Have a
we
good
put in,
night.
for all the time we put in on this, I hope
Yeah.
so.
You're going to kill it. I have absolute confidence in you. So I will see you next week. And until then, bye-bye. Let me figure
See ya.
out if I can, how to close this thing. Here we go.
Favor! Let's hear the opposition side. Like a stubborn donkey's bray. All opposed? You say nay. Opposed! Opposed! The motion carries anyway.